Hello, I'm Donald Leggett. Welcome to the latest focusIR CEO interview. I'm joined today by Stefan Bernstien, and he's the CEO of GreenRoc Mining. GreenRoc are looking at their options to develop a processing plant in Northern Europe for graphite production, and have just been given a £250,000 grant, which part pays for a feasibility study here in the UK. Welcome, Stefan.
Thank you very much, Donald.
For those new to GreenRoc, tell us briefly about the potential world-class graphite project at Amitsoq in Greenland, which GreenRoc are currently developing.
That's right. So in South Greenland, really at the southern tip of Greenland, we have a large deposit with world-grade graphite, with more than 20% graphite. And it used to be a mine 100 years ago, and we are presently developing it towards production starting in 27.
Okay, alongside the mine project, you'd like to build a processing plant for spheronisation of the graphite which is produced so that it can be used directly to make EV batteries. Now, why is that so essential? Why, in parallel process, is it so important to you to actually be creating a production plant for graphite?
Well, that is simply because without graphite, there will be no EV batteries, for instance. So it's an essential component for building electric car batteries. In fact, most lithium-based batteries today in all our electrical applications, and also energy stationary storage, which are being built these days to keep the energy from rooftop solar panels and so forth, they all rely on technologies that use graphite as anode material. So without graphite, really, you can say there will be no energy transition.
And not just graphite, but produced graphite, spheronized graphite. So it's that stage, that production stage in the process, which is so fundamentally important.
That's right. It's a processing where you take the natural flake graphite, as it is taken out of the ground and concentrated, to it has a different shape. It's produced or processed into potato-shaped particles, which is a spherical graphite, and then it's purified to more than 99.95%. And that process is presently only taking place in China. So there's no spheronization capacity in Europe today. So that means that in order for us to supply the gigafactory industry, as these battery factories are called, we'll have to ship our graphite concentrate from Greenland to China and then back again for the battery manufacturers to build their batteries. So what we need to develop in Europe today is a capacity to spheronize the graphite, or to build the anode material. And a very important step towards that is a feasibility study, where you take all the various factors into account, with the spheronization equipment, the purification process, what's the cost of these, and what's the consumables, how much energy goes into this, and everything, so we can build a robust investment case.
Which is where today's news announcement comes in. GreenRoc has just been awarded a grant of £250,000 to develop that feasibility study you were talking about by the UK's Automotive Transformation Fund. So tell us all, put that in context for us.
That's really important for us with this government funding, because it shows confidence in the project that we have. And it also, of course, reflects the importance of the UK automotive industry, which is I think it accounts for more than 10% of UK exports. I think about a million cars are being built in UK every year, and more than 80% are exported. So obviously, because all these cars in the future will be running on batteries, then obviously a domestic production of this anode material is important. And the Automotive Transformation Fund was set up by the Advanced Propulsion Centre, which is a joint program between the UK government and the Automotive Council, and that is to support this energy transition. So it's immensely important for us, because it allows us to conduct this feasibility study, build the business case, And as I said, it provides with the confidence from experts that our project is of importance.
The ATF is a government body, so it's very encouraging that a government body want you to become part of the UK's automotive supply chain. So that's terrific news and very much to be welcomed. But that said, with your commercial hat on, what other options do you have available to you?
Well, there are other options, of course. This business case would be kind of generic in the sense that it can be set up in other places in Europe also. What's important is that GreenRoc Mining is a British company, and that we can supply also the British automotive industry with anode material. The plant itself doesn't necessarily need to be in the UK. It could also be in some other place in Northern Europe, as long as it provides the material for the UK industry.
But would you personally like it to be in the UK?
Yes, that's a possibility. Certainly, there are sites in northern UK where you have access to renewable energy and close to deep water ports. So that would certainly be an option.
As a Scotsman, that sounds good. You sound as though you're talking about Scotland here.
Well, could be. I like the northern latitudes.
So I believe all downstream graphite processing currently takes place in China. In other words, all battery-ready graphite actually comes from China. Hence the strategic imperative for the UK to develop its own supply chain for the automotive industry. What are your thoughts on that, Stefan?
Well, obviously, Europe would need ultimately to build its own supply chains. Maybe not 100%, but at least make its own supply available of some of these critical raw materials. We can't just rely on these miraculously appearing from somewhere. So I think it's out of the question that Europe will have to develop not only the mining capability or the mining the critical mineral resources, but certainly also the capacity to process them into the material that is needed by our industries.
Okay, so finally, talk us through the spheronisation process and how that actually works, and very roughly, very broadly, what might the capex cost of building a graphite processing plant be?
It is a quite long process. You take the graphite concentrate that is at that stage about 94-95% purity. Then it's being micronized first. That is like you size it into certain size categories and put it into very fine particles. Then it goes into a spheronisation machine where it gets these rounded shapes. Then there's a purification process that gives it a purity of more than 99.95%. And then finally, it's being coated with carbon black, as it's called, before it's anode-ready material. And you will have to use various types of equipment there that presently is not like a shelf products in Europe, of course, although there are several European companies that are developing those kind of units. Most of the equipment will probably have to be sourced outside of Europe, as it is today at least. So we need to gain some insight into this value chain and find out exactly what the costs would be to conduct the processing, what kind of consumables are involved, and of course also what the operating costs, and finally the capex, and that will then lead us into a DCF model, a discounted cash flow model, that will explain to us exactly how profitable such an undertaking would be. And I don't want to guess too much about the capital costs here, but it is quite significant. But then on the other hand, we're building capacity here that could supply maybe not only the UK EV industry, but also gigafactories or battery industries elsewhere in Europe.
That all is all very interesting, Stefan. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you very much for the graphite processing plant update. For more company information and to access the company bulletin board, please go to the GreenRoc pages on London South East. And meanwhile, do follow us on Twitter. That's @_focusIR_ and @London South East. Or register on London South East YouTube to receive alerts to our next GreenRoc interview. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today.